Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, April 6, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that cold front that we've been watching across the Western Caribbean into sections of the Bahamas and Cuba is still basically stationary right there off to the west and north of Jamaica. And we can still see that the entire Atlantic basin is being dominated by that ridge of high pressure that had pushed more towards the east. So it's now situated to the north of the main development region, and it is still sending a lot of easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. Some of these winds definitely carrying some low-level patches of clouds, not to mention some amount of sour and dust. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the low-level patches of clouds pushing from east to west in that ridge of high pressure across the main development region into the Caribbean. You can also see the clouds associated with that cold front, reaching all the way from northern sections of North Atlantic, all the way down into portions of the Bahamas, sections of Cuba, and we can also see some clouds bring rainfall to sections of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. We'll be talking more about the weather across the rest of the Caribbean later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Saturday, April 6th. It was stated that we would have received some morning rainfall across sections of northwestern Jamaica, and then would receive some amount of afternoon rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes. And just for reference, we know northwestern Jamaica, we're talking about more so Hanover, St. James, maybe Trelawney. That would have been across the northwest, because we know the western parishes have to do with those parishes in the county of Cornwall, and we also have Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. Central parishes, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and Manchester. And what ended up happening? As early as 7:01 a.m., the visible satellite image was posted on our Twitter page. Keep in mind that these posts aren't only made on our Twitter page, but our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook page. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there. We're at Weather Jamaica on Twitter, at weather.jamaica on Instagram, at Weather Jamaica on TikTok, and Weather Jamaica 876 on Facebook. So we definitely make posts on those platforms that are not made here on our YouTube page. So yes, definitely follow us there. And we saw the visible satellite image was posted showing some clouds, bring some isolated showers to sections of Hanover and St. James. So definitely northwestern Jamaica got in on that morning rainfall that was predicted. Then during the afternoon, we saw the buildup of clouds across sections of some central and western parishes in Jamaica, more so across northern Jamaica than anything else. Even sections of Portland, western Portland, that is, got in on some of the action. Sections of St. Anne, Trelawney, sections of St. James, Hanover got in on some of that weather as well. Then the visible satellite images were posted showing all of those clouds spread out across central and western Jamaica, more so northern Jamaica. Let's say north central Jamaica and western Jamaica got in on the action. And we indeed have some of our followers confirming the rainfall in their area. Audrey Jackson stating that she got rainfall in her area and she's grateful, although it was very brief. And even on our Instagram page, we had born_fighter_tour stating heavy rain in Mobe. So that indeed confirms the weather that was predicted. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see what happened with these clouds definitely building across sections of northern St. Elizabeth, sections of Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, sections of St. Mary, and western Portland got in on some of that. More so clear skies across sections of some southern and eastern parishes. If we take a look at the latest infrared satellite images, we can see that most of that milky color that represents the cloudy weather is starting to dissipate, some still across sections of northwestern Jamaica as we speak. As it relates to the temperatures right now, we can say we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 3 a.m. on Sunday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Sunday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Sunday. And we see Jamaica embedded in some orange colors that we can see by the key on the right that represent even up to 3 degrees Celsius, maybe even getting up to close to 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And the normal temperatures for the month of April across Jamaica are about 88 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 88 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 33. Hopefully it doesn't make it to 34 degrees Celsius for Jamaica's temperature on Sunday. As it relates to the dry air map, this map is showing all the dry air. We can see by the key on the bottom. The dry air is represented by the yellows, oranges, and reds. And we see that area where Jamaica is located in, we have more so in the way of yellows than anything else. We are on the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, and it could explain the isolated shore activity that we've been getting, and we're indeed grateful for that. Thankfully, we don't have that very dry air that is represented by those reds or the whites within those reds, definitely like what we see off the coast of Africa. As relates to the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Sunday, we do see that Saharan dust stretching all the way from Africa across the southern main development region, intersection of northern South America. We see some of the Saharan dust intersections of the south central and western Caribbean. We might get on some of the slightly hazy weather. It's nothing too robust. What we don't want to see is that darker shade of brown that we see across the southern main development region. That is how we know that we're going to be having some very hazy skies and maybe triggering some asthma and sinusitis in some people. So we're not going to be getting in on that at all for Jamaica. Just some slight brown to represent some low end of the scale Saharan dust. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, both maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing more so in the way of lighter shades of blues across the northern and western side of the island. And as we can see by the key on the bottom right, these are representative of 0 to 0.5 meter wave height, while the darker shades of blues are right there on the southern and eastern portion of the island, so the 1 to 1.5 meter wave height. As it relates to the wind forecast now, it makes sense that the southern and eastern side of the island have the highest wave height, considering that we have the brighter greens across southern and eastern Jamaica that represent anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe even gusting to 20 knots. And we have more so a mixture of blues and greens across the northern and western side of the island, winds coming in from the east for the most part, averaging maybe 5 to 10 to even 15 knots on the north coast. And we do see where that air is going to be piling up. Wherever we have those blues across the island, that's where we're going to be having the least amount of wind. So we might have all of that air piling up, those cumulus clouds building into possibly rain clouds, maybe even making it to cumulonimbus status with some high cold cloud tops being pushed off. And the rainfall forecast is actually in consensus that there's definitely some amount of night to early morning rainfall that's going to be taking place across sections of some northern parishes. This map from the Euro and this map from the GFS is showing 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is actually 12 a.m. midnight tonight. And look at all those blues that represent rainfall that we see across northern Jamaica, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. I'll definitely be staying up late to see how that goes and make a post if it actually comes to fruition. Then skipping ahead to about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. Where do we see the blues that represent rainfall? Still across mainly sections of northern Jamaica. So maybe sections of western Portland again, St. Mary, sections of St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, sections of western Jamaica. So we can rule out some isolated shores maybe across section of northern Clarendon, northern Manchester, northern St. Elizabeth like what they got today, and even sections of Westmoreland. And both accumulated precipitation forecast maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus. There's some amount of rainfall that's in the forecast for the island tomorrow. We see the consensus with that rainfall across northern Jamaica. But in terms of the rainfall totals, for the first time in a long time, The GFS is a bit more robust with the rainfall total showing up to 0.48 of an inch of rainfall across that year, maybe across sections of Trelawney, St. Anne. Euro showing the rainfall totals a bit less, up to 0.38 of an inch of rainfall, but more of that across sections of northeastern Jamaica, maybe right there across St. Mary, Portland. We'll see exactly what unfolds. We know how these things go, but we actually have to look for what both maps are showing, the consensus, and we do see the consensus. Northern Jamaica is going to be getting on the most rainfall within the next 24 hours. And we're indeed grateful for that. We're in the month of April. We usually receive up to 114 millimeters of rainfall during this month. 25 millimeters make 1 inch of rainfall. So if we do the calculation, that's about almost 5 inches of rainfall. So yes, we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are currently experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. Alright, so we see that there's not much activity taking place across the Eastern Caribbean, but we do see a lot of activity taking place across sections of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, sections of Panama, Colombia as usual. Not much activity also taking place across the Eastern or the Northeastern Caribbean at all. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of that area across the Northeastern Caribbean to confirm, let's see if we actually got in on anything across the Puerto Rico area. Nothing at all. We see that it is mostly clear for majority of the Leeward Islands. Yes, section of inland areas of Puerto Rico definitely got a buildup of rainfall, afternoon convection right there to the south of San Juan. Definitely gotten on some amount of rainfall, but nothing too drastic. We know most people live closer to the coastal area, so more than likely those persons who live inland are the ones who are being affected. As relates to the rainfall right there on the Barbados radar, we don't see much taking place for Barbados or areas to the north of there, but we do see some isolated shore activity heading into sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as we speak. Definitely gonna be a wet night across the Grenadine Islands, maybe even heading into Grenada as well. If we take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that we don't have much taking place at all. Just some isolated pockets of rainfall right there across sections of the coastal areas of Guyana and Venezuela, not to mention right there across sections of Colombia. As relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we do see the above normal temperatures in the yellows, oranges and reds that should be plaguing sections of the southern United States, the Gulf of Mexico, Central America, majority of the Caribbean and northern South America, while the blues and the greens that represent below normal temperatures should be plaguing the east coast of the United States, including Florida, as well as sections of the Bahamas. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Sunday, we do see the brown that represent the Saharan dust should be making its way into portions of the South Central Caribbean especially. So definitely sections of the ABC Islands, sections of Northern South America, maybe sections of the Windward Islands as well, Trinidad and Tobago, leading all the way across the main development region into Africa. And we're indeed grateful that by the time it gets to this part of the basin, the Caribbean basin, it is not that robust. We don't see those darker shades of browns that represent that vigorous plume that would cause a lot of hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of asthma or sinusitis in some people. As relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, we do see that mixture of lighter shades of blues into darker shades of blues plaguing sections of the western hemisphere, so section of the Gulf of Mexico into the Caribbean. We know all of that is representing what we see on the key on the bottom right. The lighter shades of blues 0 to 0.5 meter wave heights, the darker shades of blues 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's the forecast in terms of the waves. And this is due to the wind that's expected. Wind should be coming in from the east for the most part across the Caribbean, curving to the north across the Gulf of Mexico, and we do see more so in the way of a mixture of blues and bright greens that we see by the key on the bottom right that represent anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knot winds, maybe even gusting to 20 knots in some spots. As relates to the rainfall forecast now, we know the whites and the grays represent little to no rainfall at all, but we know the light shades of greens, the dark shades of greens, not to mention the yellows, gold and orange, not to mention reds, They represent rainfall, and it increases as we can see as we go up by this key on the right. So definitely some isolated shower activity within the next 24 hours in store for sections of eastern Cuba, sections of northern Jamaica, parts of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, not to mention sections of Puerto Rico. We don't see much in the way of rainfall for sections of the eastern Caribbean, Windward Islands especially, but we do see some amount of isolated shower activity when we look southward for sections of maybe southwestern Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and even sections of Honduras and El Salvador. And we also see some isolated pockets of showers across sections of Belize and Guatemala as well. I know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.